So welcome to my channel, if that's what we call the good life. I'm up my allotment today and it's coming towards the beginning of November. So I'm going to be showing you some of the things you can be sowing and planting in the month of November. And I will be sharing some top tips with you and also a new mystery crop that I've never planted this time of year, but I've been promised is absolutely lovely and very, very versatile as well. Now, lots of people put their allotments to bed this time of year and you're more than welcome to do that. I definitely don't put mine to bed. There will be a lot of housekeeping going on over the next few months, which I will be doing future videos on, but I will always have something on the plot that I will be taking care of and hopefully eating every single month of the year. So to get started, something you can be sowing this time of year is garlic. So I sowed mine about a month ago, and as you can see, it's doing absolutely fantastically. It's grown really quickly. So if you've not sown garlic already, that's something you can be sowing. You can either direct sow like I've done if you've got well drained soil, or you can start off in module trays. So if your ground is a little bit too clayey or your ground isn't ready to pop your garlic in, you can do it in module trays. I popped mine in here and it's really easy to sow. You just you break the bulb up and you poke the cloves down into the soil. You take them about the depth of the garlic. So the garlic is about, say, that big, and you have about the same amount of the depth of the garlic above it. So you've got maybe about an inch or so down below the soil. And as you can see, that has grown absolutely fantastically and really quickly. So I'm really chuffed with that. I'm looking forward to getting a bumper crop next year. The other thing you could be sowing or planting, whatever you want to call it, are onions and also shallots. So these are some onions in here, and exactly the same thing. You can either start them off in module trays if your ground's a little bit too clayey or your ground isn't ready, or you can pop them straight in the soil like I've done. These don't go down quite so far, so you just poke them into the ground. They go down just to soil level, so you don't you can't see the top of it, but it's just at soil level, so you don't push them down too far. So that's a really simple and easy thing you can be starting off if you've not already done so. And of course we all use onions and pretty much all of us use garlic as well. We're going to be talking about further things you can be sowing and planting, but if you feel that you're getting value from my videos, you can do something called Buy Me a Coffee. There will be a link up on the screen and one in the description. If all you can do is comment, like and subscribe, I will still be more than grateful, but if you would like to buy me a coffee, that would be really lovely too. So let's move on to other things you can be planting. Now typically most of us used to plant our fruit trees and our fruit bushes in the spring, and you can still do that, but it's starting to get a lot drier in this country now, so an awful lot of people, especially the commercial growers, are starting to plant their fruit trees and their bushes in the autumn about now. So it's a really good time to be looking at things to get planted. I popped these blueberry bushes in about this time last year, and I had really quite an impressive crop of blueberries. I was really impressed, absolutely gorgeous. In fact, exceeded my expectation, bearing in mind they were quite tiny plants when I planted them. So that's something you can be doing. There's you know, blackcurrant bushes, gooseberry bushes you can plant in, raspberries, blackberries, apple trees, plum trees, cherry trees, the list goes on. There's so many things. If you've got room for them, they're well worth the investment. I'm eating my own apples at the moment. I've got plums in the freezer. It can really take you through the winter. So although they might not be producing things at the moment, if you make jams or compots and just freeze them whole, you can put lots and lots of things in the freezer to keep you going. You could even plant a nut tree if you wanted to. I haven't got a nut tree, but I'd always really wanted to have one. Next year we're going to be moving, so I really hope that I'm going to have room for a nut tree, or you never know, there might be a nut tree there. Anyway, that's enough about nuts. Let's move on to other things you can be sowing and planting now. And don't forget, I'm going to be giving you some top tips at the end, and also a mystery crop that I've never sown before, which I'm quite excited about. So salad leaves is something you can be sowing now. I've started some salad leaves off. You can obviously buy individual packs, but some of the mixed salad leaves are really good because you get a mixture in them. This one's got in it mustard pizzo, mustard red lace, it's got some rocket in it, it's got some pak choy, it's got some mizuno. There's a real good mixture in there, so that's something you can be starting off now. I would be starting that off in a greenhouse. I've got some started off already, so that's something I would start off indoors. all the year round lettuce is what it says on the tin. You can plant it all year round, so that's something. The little round lettuces that you can get, you can be doing those. It might not be one of the most interesting things in the world, but mustard and cress is something you can be starting off on your windowsill. They grow ridiculously quickly and they do make a nice addition when the winter months are coming and things are getting a little bit more sparse. And something else I often do every year, I don't do an awful lot of it, but I do a little bit of sprouting quite often. So I've got a few in here. I have, if I haven't lost the labels on them, I've got some alfalfa that I can sprout, which is absolutely lovely. You know, some of the artisan shops charge a fortune for sprouting things, and you can add them to all sorts of things: stir fries, risottos, stews, you name it. And I've got some fenugreek there, and there's lots and lots of things you can sprout. You can just do them in a jam jar, but I do have a little sprouter, which, if I'm honest, I tried it in the jam jar method and I didn't do very well. And because I like to do 2 or 3 things and they sprout a little bit at different times, having a little sprouter is really useful because they have little shelves on them, so you can spread them out a little bit. The other thing you could be doing, again indoors, are some microgreens. And again, I don't do an awful lot of microgreens, but I do normally do 1 or 2 batches because it's the same thing. It's just a nice addition to stir fries and, you know, salads and all that sort of thing. So pak choy is one you can do for it. I mean, all sorts of things could be microgreens. Basil is another one, mustard oriental, and I've also got a little bit of chicory there. So, I mean, basically any small kind of brassicary things could be a sprouting vegetable, if I'm really honest with you. And you can also buy mixed bags of those as well. I've got a mixed pack there, which I'm very fortunate Cultivators for Change have sent me. So that's some mixed microgreens. If you've not checked out their website, it's worth checking them out, because normally once a year in about January, they give free seeds away, and they give them away to anybody if you register. So if you've not heard of Cultivators for Change, they're well worth looking up, and a really good organisation at that as well. I will put a link in the description about that. Now let's head back home for some of my top tips on my next 2 crops, which will ensure that you'll get a bumper crop. So I'm now in the greenhouse and I'm going to be doing my last 2 crops, and I'm going to actually be showing you how I sow them with some top tips as well. Now, like I said, if you feel that you want to buy me a coffee, then please do so. The link's up on the screen and it's also in the description. It does help me run this channel, and I'd be very grateful. But if not, again, just comment, like and subscribe, just to know that you're doing well and what you're seeing is benefiting you in the comments is enough for me. So let's move on. So some of the things that you can be sowing and planting now are broad beans and peas. Just be mindful when you pick broad beans or peas that you pick ones that are suitable to overwinter, because they're not all quite as frost tolerant. I've got one called Sutton Dwarf, which says on there that it can be planted this time of year. Another one is Aqua Dulce, which is another good one. And also peas as well. Early Onward are a good one, but again, check on the packet. I have got some peas, but guess what? I've managed to pick ones up that aren't suitable to plant this time of year, so I can't get those planted yet. But just check the packets that they are suitable and they are that little bit more frost hardy. So my top tip for sowing any kinds of broad beans, peas, runner beans, French beans, that sort of thing, is to soak them. So what I do is I get a container, or it could be a glass container, it really doesn't matter. I pop my broad beans in the container, I cover it with water and I soak them overnight. I then drain them off and I put them between some tissue, and that's why it's really good to use a container, because it works like a little greenhouse. So I pop the lid on a few days later and hey presto, lots of them have sprouted. The reason I do this is that it gives me much better germination, and the ones that aren't going to sprout, which are probably that one, but you never know, it might do, at least you know which ones are sprouting. And I find that I don't waste as much compost, they sprout that little bit better. Sometimes rodents and other things eat them before they have a chance to sprout, so that's another good reason to do them this way. You've then got 2 choices. You can either then direct sow them into the ground and cover them with fleece, or you can start them off in module trays. Now my preferred choice is to start them off in module trays, just to give them a little bit of a head start. So I'll start them off, and when they've got a little bit bigger, what I did last year is I put some out when they'd grown quite a bit, and others I kept in the greenhouse and put them out in the spring. I was probably a little bit heavy-handed and was worried I was going to lose them, but I did a little bit of both. So yeah, I put some out when they'd grown a little bit, and again you can watch my channel to see when I put mine out, and if you do put them out, maybe have a little bit of fleece or something in case it gets particularly cold. Although they are reasonably frost hardy, if it's really frosty, it might be a good idea to get some fleece. Now, why do we start things off now when we could just start them off in the spring? Well, the simple answer is you just get an earlier crop. And mine definitely came on earlier, and sometimes you miss some of the other bugs and diseases when you get them in that little bit earlier as well, because the stuff hasn't come out to attack them. So yes, we just level the soil off like that, really simply, and then we just poke the beans in. So let's just got a little trowel there, so you could either use, you know, a knife or something, or my little trowel's really handy, and you just drop them in and cover them up. You don't really have to worry what way round you put them, they'll find their own way, and just pop them in just like that. And obviously don't forget to label them if you do peas and beans, because we all think we're going to know what everything is, but often we don't. I often put a couple to a tray, just in case one, you know, doesn't manage to survive even though it's sprouted. Otherwise you'll have loads and loads of trays. See, that one hasn't sprouted yet. I won't discard it, I'll let it soak for a little bit longer, because it might sprout in a couple of days time, but it just means I just get a much more successful germination rate. I'll finish planting those another time, and I will move on to my mystery crop now. So my broad beans are sown. I've got a few more to do, but that will do for now. I'll finish the rest off later. I will be labelling those, so like I say, don't forget to label them. So I will be keeping them in my greenhouse because it's the best place for them to germinate. So moving on to my mystery crop. Now, you maybe have already planted this yourselves, and you're going to have to tell me how it's fared for you. But my new mystery crop is Greek cress, which is very different to normal cress. There's much bigger leaves, and you can use it in all sorts of things. So very versatile in salads, sandwiches, stir fries, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So this is my new crop. So let's get some trays. I'm going to do a little tray here of 8, and then I'm going to plant them. They are quite hardy, so again I'm going to mix and match. I'm going to keep some in my greenhouse, and once they've germinated to quite a reasonable size, I will pop them outside with a little bit of fleece protection. But we'll just have to see how they do. It's always nice to discover something you've never grown before. Anyone who's a gardener, one of the things I love the most is the sheer versatility of the things we can grow as gardeners, and that's what makes it so much more fun. So I'm filling up a module tray there with compost. So when I looked at it, it looked quite similar to a parsley leaf, but it'll obviously taste very different to that. So again, this is another packet of seeds that Cultivators for Change provided me with. So again, you know, register with them. You never know what you're going to get. I've had all sorts of interesting things that they've sent me over the years, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have even known about some of these things. So it's ever so lovely to try new things. So I've got some seeds here. So what I'm going to do is sprinkle a small amount on each little tray, and then I'm going to cover it. Now, you can either cover with another thin layer of compost, or if you're like me, you can use a little bit of vermiculite, because it just helps with the germination. It lets a little bit more light in for these very small, delicate seeds. So let's pop what I've not used back in the bag there to try another time. So I've got my little pot of vermiculite here somewhere. As you can see, I definitely need to be doing a little bit of housekeeping in this greenhouse. It's definitely got a little bit untidy over the summer. So make sure you subscribe and you see what I'm going to be doing. My greenhouse is definitely far more abundant this year than it was this time last year. And then all you do is just sprinkle a little bit of vermiculite over the top. And then obviously don't forget to label them and give them a water. And because they're small seeds, obviously with the broad beans you can just water from above with the broad beans because the beans will be fine. But things like small seeds like this, you water from below. So I will pop that into the tray. I'll usually just firm it down a little bit with my hand, and then you just fill the water into the little tray from below. And indeed you can do the beans in exactly the same way. I generally try and keep my compost a little bit moist, so when I do start seeds off, they germinate just that little bit easier. Now if you've enjoyed watching this video and you're wanting to plant some garlic, I did a video a little while ago about the pros and cons of supermarket garlic or buying garlic from a garden centre, and also some tips on planting it. There is a link up on the screen and one also in the description.